Hi there, and welcome to my webinar, Caring for Yourselves as a Caregiver, Maintaining Your Best Self and Avoiding Care Burnout. And thank you for joining this evening. I know you've taken time out of your busy schedule as a caregiver to join me this evening. I'm so pleased you've decided to dedicate the time to yourself. And I know you're taking care of somebody you love who is suffering from an illness or disability. You've put your all into caring for them, but that leaves you with very little time for yourself and the things you enjoy. You might from time to time feel tired, overwhelmed, guilty, resentful, and angry because of the responsibility and toll this carries with it. You might also be experiencing pride, joy, and gratitude that you're able to do that for them. You have a huge heart and so much love inside you, but most of the time, you're the last person who gets to sit down, relax, and think of themselves. So we have a couple of people joining us today on Facebook, on the Facebook group. So hopefully we'll have some comments in there. So I'll be looking away from time to time to check for comments both on Facebook and here on the webinar. If you would like to make any comment, please feel free to unsilence your microphone and speak up. There's no question out of bounds. You can ask me anything. Some of the information I will be sharing today is better if it's not shared or gossiped about. So what happens in the room stays in the room. So I'd love to have comments and I'd love to have your participation as we go along. I think we're a small group, so I'd love to have you on board. So if this sounds familiar, then you're in the right place. You're not alone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Will Whitford. My background is in finance, where I was a director of a company for many years. During that time, my wife at the time got a diagnosis of young onset Alzheimer's disease, and I found myself in a position of having to care for her. That put a lot of pressure on my ability to run my career, to have a career outside of work, and to have the life that I had worked so hard in building to that point in time. So since then, I've made it my mission to help carers like you to stop feeling the guilt or anxiety about their own future, to help people who are feeling overwhelmed by the demands of balancing a career with caring and caring for their own needs, particularly. So before we begin, I'd like to get to know you a little bit. So if you could put your name in, put your comment in the comments on the webinar or in Facebook comments. Let me know your name, where you're joining us from, and who you're caring for. Of course, like anything of this nature, there is no obligation to contribute. I'd love you to if you can. I will check back from time to time for comments. So if I go quiet, it's probably because I'm checking for comments. The goal for this evening is to help you start making space in your life for the things you enjoy, filling your own cup, taking care of yourself, your needs, so you can continue to support your loved ones instead of burning out and feeling overwhelmed. And in that, guys, I'm going to start by sharing a poem that I think if we can achieve what Michael Caine is speaking about in this poem, then we are going a long way towards caring for ourselves.
The Kipling poem is one of my favorites since I was a boy at school. My father read it to me once, and I think it to me as a little boy summed up what a man should be. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good, don't look too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life for broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, but lose and start again at the beginning, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are done, and so hold on when there is nothing in you, except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, all men count with you, but not too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 40 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man.
Great, one of my favorite poems, and I think it's really inspiring for people who are like ourselves, in the world of caring for somebody else. I'd love to hear in the comments what you take from that, how that poem resonates with you, if at all. So, recapping, our goal for this evening is to help you start making a space in your life for the things you enjoy. Filling your own cup, taking care of your own needs, so you can continue to support your loved one instead of burning out and feeling overwhelmed. For me, it took a family tragedy for me to realize that things needed to change. It forced me to look at what was important to me, and I made a decision to prioritize what was really important, my values, my relationships, and the wonderful moments I could create. Other people agreed with me. Other people were in the same situation as I was, and I determined to make life better for them. So this is why I've made it my mission to help caregivers find the meaning and purpose that will help them find the balance and take actions that will lead to greater happiness. That's why I'm here today. So I'd love to hear from you. What would you like to achieve for today? If this next 45 minutes or so could change your life, what could I do? What could I achieve for you? Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to discuss that with you. If you have been struggling with these feelings of stress, self-doubt, and anxiety, and you feel like there's never enough time to do the things you enjoy, there's never enough time for you, it's probably because you're burnt out, or you're struggling to ask for help and maintain your boundaries. You've lost touch with why you do what you do, and you're not prioritizing your own needs and put yourself last. And that's not a surprise. Being a carer is time-consuming, often thankless, hard, frustrating, and confusing. We often feel completely invisible and alone. What's worse, we struggle with feelings of guilt and shame as soon as we do have a minute to ourselves. We've been doing it the hard way. No one has taught you how to be a caregiver. You found yourself in that role without ever volunteering. You became stressed, anxious. You've developed unhelpful habits and behaviors, and your relationships have always become strained. Well, I say always, not always, but many of your relationships have become strained. You'd love to find time for yourself, feel less guilty about scheduling time for yourself, reduce your stress and feel calmer. Improve your relationships and communicate without the constant worry of arguments over who's doing what. You'd like to feel happy again. So here are the 3 things I would recommend in prioritizing your own needs. They may sound simple, but these 3 things are extremely powerful in helping you improve your well-being instantly. These 3 things are what I called upon on numerous occasions during my time as a caregiver, and I'm delighted to share them with you here this evening. So, first of all, self-compassion. It's difficult to watch our loved ones struggle. They might be at the end of their life, or they may be in pain. It can be hard to find a moment to stop and feel compassion for ourselves and what our lives have become. You're entitled to grieve for the loss of the life that you once had, or for the loss of the life that you expected to have. You're within your rights to have feelings about it. And in the space provided by us, you will never feel judged for expressing those feelings. It's important to express those feelings, and you're completely entitled to them. So, how do we feel self-compassion? The first thing in feeling self-compassion is finding the space between the stimulus and response and deciding to fill that space with something positive, something that supports us, and something that elevates us. So instead of responding, take a breath, put your hand on your heart, know what you're feeling, and decide how you're going to respond to that stimulus. For me, one of the most powerful things is gratitude, finding something to be grateful about. I will talk more about that shortly. The next thing that I personally think is very important is kindness to ourselves and to the other. Walking away from the situation knowing there's nothing we have to regret. We didn't say anything that we now regret or do anything that we regret. Taking a mindful moment, knowing what's going on in our five senses. What are we seeing? What are we hearing? What are we feeling? What sensations are we feeling in our body? What are we smelling? What are we tasting? So taking a moment to think about these in a mindful way takes us away from the negative stimulus and gives us the space to decide on our response. To me, this is very important. You've probably heard possibly your mother a long time ago saying, if you feel like getting angry, take a deep breath and count to 10. This is the same thing, and it works wonderfully. So call on your values and character strengths. You have them in abundance. You know what strengths you have. You've called upon them thousands of times before. Remembering those strengths, remembering what's really important to you, can help you deal with the sometimes extremely negative behaviors of your loved ones. And just remember that it's no fun for your loved one either. You're a carer for them, but they are possibly going through hell. And when somebody's going through hell, keep loving them, because in the end, that love will be transformative for both you and them. So gratitude. There is science behind gratitude. It has been proven that practicing gratitude increases dopamine levels in the brain and reducing stress. So the dopamine is the hormone that causes us to have happy feelings, and the cortisol is the stress hormone. So increasing dopamine increases our levels of satisfaction and happiness and reduces our stress levels, allowing us to make clearer decisions that are supportive of our relationships and, most importantly, of ourselves. So at this stage, I'd like you to take a brief moment to close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and taking a deep breath to relax, and to find something that you're truly grateful for, and either write it down. If you'd like to share it in the comments, I'd love to hear it. Or for those of you watching on Facebook, I'd love to hear it in the comments. So write down what you have to be grateful for. There is value in writing it down. You get the sensation in your body of the gratitude. You possibly smell the ink. You see what you're writing. That gratitude becomes very tangible. So writing it down is an extra level of how you may benefit from the feeling of gratitude. So I'd recommend that you write it down or put it in the comments. So at this stage, I'd like to tell you about Alison, a client I worked with, I reckon about this time last year. Alison, at that time, was a caregiver for her daughter who had multiple personality disorder. And it made life very uncomfortable for Alison. And she became so stressed and so overwhelmed with her responsibilities of caring and some of the behaviors of her daughter that she was considering giving up her job. She needed to work. She had a mortgage to pay, but things were so stressful that she was considering giving up her job. We worked together for, I think we had 4 sessions in all, and through practicing gratitude and self-compassion and some other techniques that we'll discuss, Alison began to make clearer decisions and was able to continue her work. I subsequently heard that not only did she continue her work, but she later set up her own business and had some success in that. So these techniques, simple as they sound, are difficult to do, but if you can do them, they will change your life. So for prioritizing self-care, remembering that you can't pour from an empty cup and that you need to take care of yourself first. The last thing you want to happen is for your own health to suffer. My wife used to say to me, don't let this disease cost 2 lives. And that, as harsh as it may sound, and as difficult as it may be to hear, was so true. There is a danger that the illness that our loved one is suffering from can have a very high cost to us personally, as well as to them. Most people think that self-care is for people who have time. But the truth is, self-care is crucial for caregivers to maintain peace, sanity, and good health. So if you feel you don't have time for self-care, all I can say is it's vital that you do make that time, you do find that time, because the benefits of it will be phenomenal. And what does taking time for self-care look like? Possibly it's leaving the room where you feel angry or overwhelmed. On occasion, when my wife's illness was at its worst, I had to leave the room when things got heated and stay away until things calmed down again. One of the ways her illness manifested itself was in temper tantrums, and I had to back away, leave the room, and leave her to her own devices while that was happening. I had a lot of guilt about that. I had a lot of anxiety about it, but ultimately I had no choice. Another important thing is asking for help. And some of us are reluctant to ask for help because we are reluctant to receive it. Sometimes we think that we are the only ones who can provide that help. And this is a belief that we formed possibly in our early years, possibly told things like blood is thicker than water and you have to be the one to care for your loved one, and you've made a promise in sickness and in health. But that's all beliefs that we have formed. That's all lines that we have been fed by society or by our parents. It's all things that have been passed down through our culture, through our societies, and it's not necessarily true. It is true if it is your value. Are you following your own values? Are you doing what you are doing because of a value that you carry? If not, you're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel guilty in every time you make a decision. So making sure that our actions are in line with our values is important. And I would say values because I don't mean beliefs, because beliefs are just something that we hold. They're not necessarily our own truth. I often hear my mother's voice in the shoulds of my life. I should be caring for such and such because I did promise to look after them in sickness and in health. I chose to care for my loved one because it's a value of mine to be close to that loved one. It's a value of mine to maintain family relationships. So there is a difference, and it is worth exploring in your own thoughts and understanding what your values are and what actions you can take to support those values. Some of us find it difficult to maintain boundaries and say no. And I'll talk about boundaries again shortly. Suffices to say is that understanding, defining, communicating, and maintaining our boundaries is an important aspect of looking after yourself. Perhaps looking after yourself means you go away for a weekend or just an evening. You go to dinner with a sibling or a parent or a child. Just do something away that is all about you. And asking people, giving them tasks to complete, it's my experience that most people are reluctant to ask if you need help, but are more than willing to provide it if and when asked. So delegating things to other people, they can do it, they're happy to do it. They feel they might be intruding if they ask if you need help. So some people find it difficult to offer help, as difficult as we do to accept it. And breaking down that barrier, asking for the help, can bring out the best in people. So having difficult conversations, another thing that's crucial. Often we suffer silently because we're afraid that we'll come across as being ungrateful, or that we'll cause a row, or that no one will understand us anyway, or we are scared to be rejected and ashamed of having our own needs. Understanding what's stopping us from asking for help, understanding that the conversation, that request can be difficult, is the first stage in breaking down that reluctance and asking for help. So I have helped people to frame these conversations, to create the mindset that will allow them to have these conversations. But I'd love to hear in the comments if anybody's willing to share about some of the difficult conversations they're having, or they need to have, or are putting off because of those fears. Okay, boundaries. And there's some great work done by a psychologist called Brené Brown, and this is her work about how to brave our lives. This is true for all of life, not just for caring. The need to set, maintain, and communicate boundaries is so important. But being reliable, not promising to do things and then not doing them. Being somebody that if somebody asks you for something, they know they can rely on you to do it. And being accountable if you fail to do that. So being accountable for your own faults and own errors, and being willing to correct your own behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs if necessary. The vault is about privacy and not gossiping. So if somebody tells you something in confidence, the worst thing that can happen is that they can hear that back from somebody else. So the vault is so important. Keep private conversations private. Don't gossip about people. Don't spread malicious rumors about people. And this falls into integrity. Our own personal integrity will allow us to do that anyway. Another aspect is being non-judgmental. Drop the beliefs, drop the thoughts that you've had about certain types of people, people with black hair or blue eyes or grey shoes. It's all rubbish. forget your unconscious bias. And I say unconscious bias on purpose because a lot of the times we are unconscious of our judgments we are making. Just being aware of what those judgments are can allow us to drop those judgments. And again, gratitude. It's so important. It comes up so often in all of the literature about self-help and caring for yourself. Gratitude is the key. So recapping on that then, the three important things in making time for yourself and in self-care are self-compassion. Give yourself a break if you're feeling something rotten. It's okay. Give yourself a break if you make a mistake. It's okay. You are still who you are, and you still know you are a loving and caring person. So self-compassion. Take a breath, put your hand on your heart, feel the feeling that you are feeling, and love yourself regardless of what has just happened. Getting time away, whether it's just for a coffee in the morning or a meal with a loved one in the evening, or even a weekend or week away, respite is so important. During my time, I had at least 3 or 4 extended periods of time away from my loved one. That didn't mean I didn't think about her. It just meant that I had time to think about other things too. And life advice rather than caring advice is braving. So set boundaries, be reliable, be accountable. Maintain a secure vault, so keep things private that are offered to you privately. Live a life of integrity and non-judgmental. And most importantly, gratitude. Maintain a gratitude journal. I have my gratitude diary. I try to maintain this as often as possible. If possible, write it down. You'll get more benefit from it that way. You can write it down and then destroy it later. But the important thing is to get the sensual, physical feeling of writing. So that's all very well and good, but you've been the way you are for many years, and you can't change the habits of a lifetime. Again, that's a belief. And it's a belief I hope I can help you change. I am running a program shortly, a practical program for caregivers who are struggling to look after their own needs and squeeze in time for themselves. That program will be starting the first week of March, and I'm going to tell you a bit about it, how this can help change the habits of a lifetime. So does this sound like you? You're feeling overwhelmed and unsupported. You find yourself struggling to balance the responsibilities of being a caregiver with your own well-being. Well, you're not alone in that. Others are the same. I understand the unique challenges. I've been there. And I can offer you support. So my guided support group for caregivers is designed to provide you with the tools, resources, and community you need to take care of yourself while caring for your loved one. This support group is led by me, a qualified coach with first-hand experience as a caregiver. I understand the struggles you're facing. It's a small group with a maximum of 5 members to ensure you receive the personalized attention you need. And don't let caregiving consume your life. So in this program, I will be offering practical, personalized advice and support, a safe place to share your experience, reduce your feelings of helplessness, resentment, and anger, and more headspace to make the important decisions. The aim of this course is to increase your life satisfaction in a small, intimate group setting. Again, only 5 people on the course, run over 4 sessions, and the charge will be €65 per session, or €250 if you pay for all together. So repeating, what I'm offering is support for group sessions with a maximum of 5 participants. You'll also get access to my Facebook and private communities and my Become Untouchable training course, which helps you build the resilience and confidence you need in communicating your boundaries. I will also give you the digital version of my strength and affirmation cards that will help you remember what's strong with you rather than what your difficulties are. If you'd like to hear more about this, put a comment in the webinar comments or in the Facebook chat, and I'll reach out to you and contacting you with more details. Finally, if anybody would like to have a free 30-minute coaching call with me to discuss your circumstances and discuss ways that you may change your routine, I'm more than happy to offer a free 30-minute session to discuss ideas that might help transform your life. This call is for you if you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed by the responsibility of being a caregiver. Scan the QR code to be brought to my website where you can make an appointment with me. I'd love to hear more from you. And finally, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put any questions in the comments. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close the meeting. If nobody has any questions, I would love to hear more from you. So thanks for joining, and hopefully we'll meet again soon.